Hello, my name is Calvin Connor, and I have just recently placed top 16 at the Pokemon World Championship, and we're going to be going over my Gardevoir EX deck. So first things first, we have 3 Ralts. So we're a Gardevoir EX deck, so we're going to have 3 copies of Ralts so that we can help our prizing and make sure that we don't prize multiple copies of Ralts so that we can ensure that we get a Gardevoir out at some point. The next card that we're going to be adding is 2 copies of Kirlia. Kirlia is vital to our deck because it's going to help us get into that Gardevoir EX that we're trying to get into, and it's going to help us with cards that we're going to later feature, like TM Evolution. The next card is the main card of the deck. It's going to be Gardevoir EX with the main ability Psychic Embrace. This is going to be the main way our deck functions, cheating some psychic energies out of our discard into play. The next card that is the most important card of our deck as well is 4 copies of Munkidori. Now, Munkidori is one of the best cards inside the game right now with the ability Adrena Brain. Once during your turn, you're going to be able to move 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon, which really keyly works with our Gardevoir EX and its ability to put 2 damage counters in play when you place Psychic Energy into play from your discard pile. So this is going to be the main function of our deck. Also, Munkidori is going to be a great attacker with the Mind Bend attack to confuse our opponent to put them in awkward situations. The next card that we're going to add to our deck is Screamtail. Screamtail is really great because it's going to be able to do damage to your opponent's bench. Now, there are key cards inside the format like Shaymin that are going to be able to block our opponent's bench and make it so that we're not going to be able to do damage to their bench. Now, the key thing with Shaymin is that Shaymin only blocks damage to the bench from non-Roblox Pokemon. So we are going to be able to use Screamtail to hit those EX Pokemon mainly, and some of those other Pokemon that are Roblox Pokemon as well. So the next card we'll add is Drifloon. Drifloon's going to be the main way that we do a lot of damage with this deck. With cards like Bravery Charm, we're going to be able to do a ton of damage with Drifloon. Now here are some of the support Pokemons. Fezandipiti EX. Fezandipity's Flip the Script is a great ability, and it's going to be able to draw us a ton of cards and get us into the game when we have poor hands. The next card is Mew EX, which is a bit of a draw support card for us as well, but it's going to be able to use genome hacking to copy our opponent's attacks as well. So this is going to work really perfectly with our main strategy of being able to attach psychic energies and use attacks. Copying some of our opponent's attacks sometimes in situations is going to be really powerful, and the boosted draw does help as well in the early game when we have dead hands. Now the last card, and one of the most important cards that we're going to add to the deck, is Lily's Clefairy EX. Lily's Clefairy EX has the ability Fairy Zone. The weakness of each of your Dragon-type Pokemon in play is now Psychic. Now, this is really powerful considering that there are a lot of Dragon-type Pokemon inside the format right now that are very powerful. So this is going to help our deck tremendously. Now we'll move on to the items and supporters. So the first one that we'll add is 2 Nest Balls. I played 2 Nest Balls because they're going to be able to help us get some of those Pokemon that we can't get with cards like Artisan, and it's going to be an easy way for us to get Pokemon and search and get them into play. Now, the other main search card that we're going to play into the deck is 4 copies of Ultra Ball. Now, Ultra Ball is going to help us tremendously with our setup because it's going to be able to discard cards, mainly those Psychic Energies that we want to get into our discard pile to pair with Gardevoir EX. And this is going to be the main way that we try to do so other than Earthen Vessel and Research. And it also gets us our Gardevoir EX and Kirlia when we were looking for them. The next card we're going to add to the deck is 2 copies of Rare Candy. Rare Candy is a really great card because it's going to help us cheat that evolution to get Gardevoir into play. It can help us get some of those aggro and super aggressive lines. The next card that's really important to our deck that we're going to be adding for the items is going to be 3 copies of Earthen Vessel. Now, Earthen Vessel is going to be really important because it helps us search our deck for some of those energy. Now, when we're looking for dark energies and when we're looking for psychic energies, it's going to be able to let us pick up the exact one that we're looking for. So Earthen Vessel is a very strong card. The next card that we'll add to my list is Super Rod. Super Rod is really strong because it gets 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energies back into your deck. So it can really help you get those energy cards back in, and especially the dark energies, and some of those Pokemon, and sometimes multiple copies of those Pokemon. So that's why it's super powerful. Now, the other card that's going to be one of our cards to get cards back is going to be 2 copies of Night Stretcher. Night Stretcher is really good because it's going to help us get some of those basic energies back to our hand, especially those dark energies that we talked about to get onto our Munkidoris. and it's going to be able to help us immediately get a Pokemon back that we're looking for, sometimes being like Clefairy, to try to get a huge knockout to swing for game. Now, the only stadium that we play inside of our deck is going to be 2 copies of Artisan. Now, these Artisans are going to help us find basic Pokemons that are non-rule box, like we talked about before. So, a main way to get some of those key Pokemon that we're looking for in our deck, and it combos really well with cards like Secret Box. Now, the last item card that we have inside of our deck is called Counter Catcher. Counter Catcher, there's going to be 2 copies of in our deck, and it's going to be the main way that we switch cards into our active position from our opponent. We don't play any copies of Boss's Order in our deck, and just 2 copies of Counter Catcher. This is going to be the main way that we switch our opponent's Pokemon from the bench to the active position to try to get better targets for us to do damage to. Now we're going to move on to the supporters. So the first supporter that we're going to have is 2 copies of Arven. Arven's really great at getting our tools and getting our items that we're mainly looking for. The main play that we like to use with Arven is setting up TM Evo plays, where we can skip an evolution and search it out of our deck and evolve it straight to the Pokemon that we're looking for, mainly into Kirlia or Gardevoir. And it also gets important cards like Bravery Charm when we're looking for a key knockout when we're already set up in the late game, or to set up early to get Secret Box. Now, the other supporter in our deck is going to be Iono. 4 copies of Iono is really important to our deck because we're going to be behind or a lot inside of games, and it's going to be a way to reset our opponent's hand to try to brick them and give them low odds of hitting a combo to try to beat us in the game. Also, it's a very good hand refresher for us because we're usually not taking the first prizes against aggressive decks. So against those type of decks, we want to give them a small hand and us a bigger hand. Now, the next supporter we're going to add is 4 copies of Professor's Research. Now, Professor's Research is going to be the main way that we try to get some of those energy in the discard pile for us as well, in combination of discarding cards and drawing 7. So that's why it's going to be one of the main supporters we do. Now, we're going to move on to the tools. So we're going to have 2 Technical Machine Evolutions, and this is going to help us get our Kirlias into play and our Gardevoirs into play, with cards like Secret Box and cards like Arven to search them out, or just finding them naturally also works. The next card we're going to play is 2 copies of Bravery Charm. This is going to be really strong for our deck because this is going to help us boost our HP. Now, this combos really well with cards like Drifloon and Screamtail to help us have advantages of doing more damage than we're allowed to on our Pokemon. And the other thing that is really great for us, it's going to help boost our damage, boost our HP on some of our Pokemon that have lower HP, and we can bring it up to outside of range of some of their Pokemons from being knocked out. Cards like Fezandipiti are great targets for Bravery Charm. Cards like Ralt, cards like Clefairy, and cards like Mew. Boosting their HP just a little bit by 50 hit points can really be crucial to win a game. Now, the most important card I would say about our deck in the items category would be the Secret Box. The Secret Box is going to be the main way that we try to set up. You can use this card only if you discard 3 cards. Now, this is sometimes a hindrance to decks, but it's really great for our deck because we can combo this with discarding psychic energies that we're looking to get into our discard pile anyways. So with cards like Earthen Vessel, we can set this play up really well, where we can use Secret Box instead of a hindrance as a really great thing, so where you can discard a lot of energies quickly. It searches your deck for an item card, a tool, and a supporter. Now, this really works well for us as well because we're able to get cards like Bravery Charm, TM Evo, which could be great as well, an item card usually like an Earthen Vessel or a Professor's Research, so you can get some of those energies into the discard pile really quickly and really thin your deck, and this will really be helpful for us. Secret Box is really the main way that this deck kind of functions and flows throughout the game. And now, last but not least, we'll go ahead and talk about our energy cards inside of our deck. Now, the first one that we can talk about is the copies of Dark Energy. Now, we're going to be playing inside this deck 4 copies of Dark Energy. Now, some lists play 3 copies of Dark Energy, but I chose to go with a copy of 4 Dark Energy. Now, there's 4 Dark Energy inside of our deck because we want to make it easier on us to not prize Dark Energies and have the access to use 3 to 4 Munkidores at all times pretty much throughout the game. Now, that's going to be super important for us throughout the game, so that's why we're playing exactly that many copies of Dark Energy. And now the next one is we're going to be playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 Psychic Energies. We're playing 7 Psychic Energies so that we can try to turbo get them into the discard pile and really secure our discard pile with those Psychic Energies to combo well with our Gardevoir Psychic Embrace ability so that we can gain more damages in play, use Monkey Dory to remove those damages, and then fuel our attacks as well. Now that is a breakdown of my top 16 deck list from the Anaheim Worlds 2025.